So shall I get started, Jackie?
Go ahead.
Okay. So good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever it is for you. I just want to welcome everyone here this morning. For me, it's morning. I'm so happy to be here with you at this very special event. It's the AJL's 2022 Sidney Taylor Book Awards after party. For the third year in a row, our book awards were announced at the American Library Association's Youth Media Awards event last Monday, January 24th. Unlike in previous years, however, this year, the ALA's affiliate presidents were honored to be able to announce their own winners. It was an exciting week of preparation for Martha Simpson, our Sidney Taylor Book Award chair, and me. Martha expertly provided the list in the proper format. ALA prepared a script for me, and I had to make sure I knew how to pronounce all the author and illustrator names correctly. And I see that Vera is here, and I wanted Vera to know I spent a long time pronouncing your name repeatedly. I could not be prouder of our awardees, and I could not be happier to be here today celebrating with Joe Taylor Marshall, who every year makes it possible for us to present AJL's Sidney Taylor Book Awards. If you are an AJL member, thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you at one of our members-only roundtables, as well as in Philadelphia in June. If you're not a member, please join us. We are the leading authority in Judaic librarianship, and we can be an invaluable resource to you, whether you are a librarian, an author, or just interested in knowing more about excellent Jewish books. Now I will turn this over to Jackie Ben Ephraim, our Vice President of Development, to get this event started.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. And first, very personally, I would like to share that I still have my first edition, and it doesn't come quite clear, of More of All Kind Family. And I believe my sister, who's here somewhere in the crowd, has the first book. And it's been so cherished. It's been on my bookshelf for 65 years. Thank you so much. So, Joe, first I would like to thank you for your thirst for stories from your mother's childhood that you started to tell you at bedtime. Those tales went on to become the basis of a groundbreaking book, All of a Kind Family. The first book about the Jewish experience in America that touched not just Jewish children, but young readers from diverse backgrounds for generations. But young readers from diverse but this is not all. Sidney Taylor paved the way for a multitude of books to be published by children's authors on a wide range of Jewish subjects. These books provided an opportunity to educate our next generation and change the hearts and minds of those who do not know anything about Jews. Joe, I would also like to thank you for sponsoring the Sidney Taylor Book Awards for nearly 30 years. The hope of winning these prestigious awards inspire writers, illustrators, and publishers to produce quality Jewish children's literature. For the last few years, as Kathy mentioned, the Sidney Taylor Book Awards have even been held in such high regard that they're announced at the American Library Association's Ethnic Affiliate Awards. You should be very proud of this accomplishment that has touched so many lives and it's been only made possible by your generosity. Your mother's books may have been about all of a kind family, but Joe, you are one of a kind. So Rebecca, would you give a little bit more about Joe, please?
I would just like to thank Joe for being here today and for sponsoring the Sidney Taylor Awards. It's a great honor to have you here, and we really appreciate your presence and your enthusiasm to share reminiscence with your mother. I would just be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity right now to say that if you would like to contribute to the Sidney Taylor Awards yourself and have the shiny seals on your books in your library, you can do that through our website. Jo Marshall is the daughter of Sidney Taylor. She is the sponsor and has been for many years, and she has lots to share with us, so I am going to turn it over to her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jackie, Rebecca, and I'm very honored to be part of this event, and I have to wear glasses. That's happened in the last few years, so here I am. I really owe a debt of gratitude to Martha Simpson, the chair of the Sidney Taylor Book Awards, and the committee members, and to Eileen Grossberg, the chair of the Sidney Taylor Manuscript Awards. I can't imagine reading all those books, as wonderful as they all are, and making a decision about who gets the award. I mean, that's really tough. So I admire every one of you for the work that you do. And I'm also so pleased to be in the company of all the librarians who have recommended and supported my mother's books for well over 60 years. And since they've encouraged children to read them and read more about the real all-of-a-kind family, the 5 little girls, their heritage, their mischief, their triumphs, their tragedies, their adventures on the Lower East Side at the turn of the last century. It's hard to believe it's been so many years, but it's also quite remarkable that while a lot has changed, a lot has remained the same. And just one example, in one of my mother's books, she writes about a pandemic, but the one she's writing about is the Spanish flu of 1918. But when you read about it, it could be written today. It's just amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the questions people often ask me. Number 1, are the stories real? Number 2, how did your mother come to write them and get published? And number 3, how did she know so much about the Lower East Side? Were there roads back then? I love that. I'm also now meeting with the grandmothers who were the original readers of the current crop of grandchildren. They are giving often what are dog-eared binders of my mother's books and beloved copies. It's really exciting. In fact, one little girl told me, "You remind me of my grandma. She's dead." My answer to these lovely children's questions are as follows. 1, are they real? Yes, they are indeed real. Not even their names or their personalities were changed, except for my mother. My mother told me all sorts of stories about Ella, Henny, Charlotte, and Gertie. My mother was Sarah in the middle. But in the 50s and 60s, you could not get published very easily if you were a woman. So my mother settled on Sydney, which was kind of an ambidextrous name and could be taken for male. She also wanted to be pretty special. And Sydney was a pretty special name back then, for a woman anyway. As a matter of fact, I don't know how many of you know this, but the actress Sigourney Weaver was Sarah Weaver, and she too wanted to be special. Question 2 is a little more complicated. The question was phrased, how did your mother come to write these stories, and how did they get published? My mother actually, while very into politics, culture, social causes, and creative endeavors, she was, by the way, a true feminist. She made a big deal out of the fact that when she was 16 years old, women got the right to vote. That was 1920. And she was very active in high school promoting this cause. Surprisingly, too, she retained her maiden name when she was married on the door of her apartment. for the whole time, which I didn't even know until I came to the apartment and saw two names, my father's and hers. That too was kind of advanced for that age. I have to say, spoiler alert, she was not really religious, but she didn't keep a kosher home, nor give me any sort of Jewish training at all. However, she very much identified with the ethnic, the cultural aspects of Judaism, and was very glued to that. Interestingly, she herself was kind of waspy looking. She had blonde hair, she had blue eyes, and often she was mistaken for a Gentile. As a matter of fact, she told me at one point that she used to hear a lot of anti-Semitic remarks passed on to her at jobs that she had worked at as a young person. This set her thinking about prejudice and stereotypes, which I guess added to the story that's told about, or at least it's said, that one day I asked her why there were no stories about Jewish heroines who were dark-haired, or as opposed to fairy tale princesses who were always blonde, except Snow White. And I think it's interesting that they emphasized the white, even though Snow White was dark-haired. That's another issue for another time. But Snow White got the 7 dwarfs. Everybody else got the handsome prince, which I think is kind of interesting too. Another concern my mother heard from me was that I was an only child, and parenthetically, I was pretty bratty one. I think I've improved a little, but I hope so. And anyway, she herself, of course, had grown up with her 4 sisters, and later on, 3 brothers appeared on the scene. Her plan was to write about that too, but unfortunately, she passed away before she could finish. She did write Ella of All O Kind Family, which was the last in the series. Again, the plan was to write about Henny of All O Kind Family, and Charlotte about All O Kind Family, and Gertie. But I believe the strongest impetus for writing the book, and this is my conclusion, I haven't shared this before with anybody, but you're a very special audience, dear to my heart, so I'm going to tell it to you. One spring day, when I was about, I guess, 10 or 11, I noticed several of my little friends, kids in the neighborhood, had dirty foreheads. At first, I thought they just hadn't washed. But then it became clear that this was like some kind of special club. And I thought how cool it was to have schmutz on your face. And immediately, of course, I wanted to join, you know, like the teenagers of today with their tattoos. I wanted to be part of the schmutz club. So I wanted to fit in. And I asked one of my friends, oh, excuse me, my little pussycat is walking in front of the screen. Okay. I wanted to fit in so badly that I asked my friends where they got the schmutz. And one of them said, well, I will take you especially to my church for my share of Ash Wednesday. Well, when I proudly came home with the mark on my forehead, my mother hit the roof, absolutely hit the roof, especially when I told her I had gone to a beautiful church to get it. That, I think, was one of the most direct forerunners of the All of a Kind family tales of the 5 little Jewish girls, their family life as gently introduced Jewish siblings who celebrated different sorts of holidays together, yet were all very ordinary American children. So my mother started telling me stories about my aunts, Ella, Henny, Charlotte, and Gertie, and herself when they were growing up. And my father urged her to type up them. We didn't have any computers in those days. So I would, night after night, hear her going on the typewriter as she was writing. My father said it was important so that someday I could pass these stories on to my own family. Well, my mother in her humility, typed them up and buried them somewhere in her underwear closet or her underwear drawer. And actually, history would have been confined to that underwear drawer if my father hadn't searched through, pulled them out, and read about a special contest that was giving an award for the best new children's book. The contest was sponsored by a Gentile firm called Wilcox and Follett, and they were very progressive, very creative, and very brave because they saw something very new and innovative in these books. It was the first book, as has been said, ever to be about American children who just happened to be Jewish, sort of like a Jewish Little Women, which actually it's been compared to. And I think it's no accident that I'm called Joe when I think about it. Well, my father, as I say, fished them out, and he sent them away. And I don't think my mother ever thought about how much of a historical pioneer she was until she got a telegram that said, "Congratulations, you just won $3,000. Now, Mason and I went and checked on Google. That would have been over $34,000 in today's money. So that was a heck of a lot of money. And we're publishing your book," said Wilcox and Follett. Well, my mother was absolutely floored because she had known nothing about the fact that my father had sent these manuscripts away, and she didn't know what to do. So she immediately called her mother, my grandmother, and said, "Mama, you're going to be immortal." My grandmother, in her special way, said, "Well, never mind about that. How much did you win?" Okay. The third question about the roads on the Lower East Side relates to some of the remarkable and astute, yet sometimes very funny fan mail I get, directed to my mother as "Dear Mr. Taylor," because a lot of them think she is indeed a man, or they often think that maybe I can answer for her. I try to in the best way I can, although I'm obviously not my mother. But I have to quote from some of you. One of my favorites is, "Dear Mr. Taylor, I loved your books, but I would have written them different." And I answered, "Dear Jeremy, when you get your first book published, I would love to have a copy and see how you wrote them different." Another food lover wrote to me, "That stuff you ate together in the books, crepe latch, sounds delicious. Did your family invent it?" I tried to spell kreplach phonetically. That is not easy to do. And I tried to explain to her that's what crepe latch was. Anyhow, since I don't have my mother's flair for writing, I'm hoping you get to read more about her in the newly released biography by June Cummins and Alex Dunyas, and it's published by Yale University Press. And guess what it's called? From Sarah to Sydney. The book is based on documents, treasures, all kinds of letters, diaries that were locked up in the basement in a trunk. I never accessed it. I just felt it would be too intrusive, but I knew my mother had put stuff in there. Well, I gave June Cummins, the initial author, access to it. And it's just amazing what has happened. The book about her life is incredible. It has had rave reviews from the New York Times, too, actually, from local newspapers. All my friends from all over are sending me reviews that they clipped out. Also, the Wall Street Journal devoted a whole page to it. I didn't even know the Wall Street Journal reviewed books, but apparently on Saturdays they do. I had Amazon, it sold out twice. I had trouble myself getting it. But I love some of the comments about the book too. When a friend of mine said to me, there's a beautiful picture of my mother on the cover when she was 20. And he said, "Oh, your mother was gorgeous." And then he added, "You must have taken after your father." I thought that was funny. Anyway, when I read it, I learned some warts, pimples, and risque stuff about my own family, which I never knew. But I think that's the kind of thing that sells books, right? Today it's sort of like a patent place. There's suicide, there's also incest, there's all kinds of interesting things in there. I don't know if anybody here watching this has any questions of me. I'd be happy to try to answer them intelligently or otherwise. So please speak up if I can do that.
Anyone who has a question can go ahead and unmute themselves.
Or if you're more comfortable, you can put your question in the chat and we'll make sure that Joe gets it.
Wonderful talk. Thanks for sharing these amazing stories. Well, thank you, is it Lily? Thank you, Lily.
I have a question about the biography because it's so, like you were saying, it's so, there's so much in there and so much that's surprising. And were you involved with the research, or were you, what were you most surprised about, I guess, and how did you enjoy the process of uncovering that information?
Well, I really didn't know much about my grandparents. I was an only child who didn't really fit in because my closest cousin was either 10 years older or 10 years younger. So when we would go to grandma's house, I kind of would go into the kitchen and eat all her chocolate chips that were hidden for the chocolate chip cookies, because all the grown-ups were talking about things I didn't understand. So I really wasn't involved much with knowing about my grandparents' life. I did know a lot about my parents' life. I knew that my mother and father were both very artistic. We lived in Greenwich Village. A lot of the artists of their day would come to the house and as guests. My mother, of course, was a dancer, a Martha Graham dancer. She was an actress. She had numerous careers. But as I say, I wasn't really involved much because I had not read the material in the trunk. I didn't even know that my mother's high school graduation dress was in it. But when I saw it, I was really upset because she was so nice and skinny and I wasn't. I saw how small the graduation dress was and I was envious. Another question. You talked about how your mother wrote the book to share stories of your family and heritage with, I lost the rest. I'm sorry. I don't know.
You talked about how your mother wrote the book to share stories of your family and heritage with you. How did reading the book make you feel? And did it change the way you saw yourself or your family or your heritage?
That's a wonderful question. Yes, I got a strange feeling reading that book, almost like I was reading about somebody else. And in part, I felt a little nervous because there was stuff in there that I really had not shared about myself. I was a difficult child. You know, there's a song I've quoted many times from the Fantastics, the musical. Why did the kids put beans in their ears? They did it because we said no. Well, that was like, if my mother said no, I said yes. If my mother said yes, I said no. I did all kinds of strange things. I wanted to look like Ann Miller, the dancer, who, I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember, but her hair never moved and it was big and it was black. So I got hair, a rinse called Noreen, and I would lock myself in the bathroom and pour it over my head because I wanted to be all black. And half the time, the capsules in the hair dye would stick in my hair, but I'd come out thinking I was gorgeous. It looked like shoe polish, and every time it rained, rivulets of black, and my mother would absolutely have fits. But anything that would upset her, I think I got involved in because that was the way I got attention. But other than that, I was a little concerned about some of the stuff that came out. But you know, at my age, I'm now 87. I'm sitting on the wrinkles, by the way, just in case, if you wonder. Better there than on the face. I figured, well, hey, whatever they know, and maybe it will stimulate more interest. My mother was quite an incredible woman. She really was. And I'm very grateful for the heritage that she did give me. So that's about all I can say about that.
Joe, I have a question. First, it's lovely to see you again. We've met, and it's always such a delight to interact with you. I have my books here. One of them has my name in it, and the other one has my sister's name in it. So that tells you how important they were to my family. My question to you is, do you think your mom had any sense that her stories and her books would be the foundation of what was to become a legacy and a genre of books in its own right? That her books really kind of started that middle grade reader Jewish content that's inspired, really, at this point, generations of writers. Do you think she had any sense of the importance of her work?
I really don't think so. I think she had a sense of the importance of her work to her family and to me. But I don't think she ever anticipated. As I say, she stuck it in her underwear drawer. And who goes into a person's underwear drawer? So I don't think she had any real sense of what it would become. And I think as she got to know, when she got the award, she was just floored. And I think she's looking down now and saying thank you so much to all of you for making these books so real and so wonderful and so living on like they are.
Yeah.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Barbara.
I was just going to say, I think so many of us, I know for me, the books were very significant in even the shaping of my Jewish identity. As much as real life experiences were, knowing those girls and having them reflect their lives and mine back, it was pretty significant in my growing up. So I thank you, and I thank your mom more times than you can imagine.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
There was another question, Joe, from Sally Stiglitz, who says she's so moved by these stories. Thank you for sharing with us. Have you ever considered writing a memoir?
I do write. Actually, my whole family has written. Charlotte has written an autobiography, but I'm trying to convince my cousin to release it. She has not done so. She says there are secrets in it. I said, well, what about me? There's secrets in mine too. But Charlotte did write about becoming deaf later on in life and how to deal with deafness. So she wrote that. My cousin, well, my uncle actually, Jerry, who was a prototype of the first born in the books, a boy, his letters to his, at the time, fiance, are published in the Library of Congress. They were kind of love letters from World War, and it's called Letters from World War II. So that's in there. My father was a wonderful writer. He started a magazine with a famous accompanist of Martha Graham called Lewis Horst, and the magazine was called Dance Observer. And he was very active in publishing that for the dance world. And I wrote a lot. I was involved in teaching and at Columbia, and also I wrote for medical journals because I worked at hospitals as administration for social work. And I wrote a lot of articles about how to deal with some of the issues, hospital issues, and they were published. And I also contributed to the Dance Observer when I got older. And some of those were published. So we all kind of write, and I don't know.
That's great.
I think my mother was the real forerunner of this, and you know, She
That's part of the legacy, right? She passed that on.
exactly, and I don't think I can in any way compete with what she has done. She's really incredible. Always was.
Well, we've had a number of ideas. The chat is buzzing right now. One idea was we'd like to see a book about Joe of All of a Kind Family.
Oh dear.
We'd like to see an All of a Kind family cookbook. And then we're wondering if we could do an All of a Kind family musical.
Ah, interesting. Ah, my goodness. Yeah. Oh, well, my mother, wrote original plays. I should mention this too, with Ella doing the music for her Sedgwick camp. Those of you who don't know, was run by the Central Jewish Institute, and my whole family was involved with Sedgwick camp. Henny drove a truck. Ella was a music counselor. My mother taught dance and drama. And there are many, many unpublished plays that she has written with original music by Ella that are in my attic as opposed to the basement. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I have been told that the market for children's plays is not as active as for children's stories. But and as far as
I have to disagree with that. I think that if we gathered, and I'm talking now to all of the very wonderful authors that are with us this morning and afternoon. I think if somebody had access to those plays and could put those in, even in a single book, I think there would be a huge market for that. I believe, especially because they're Sidney Taylor's. I mean, I think that that would be a fabulous idea. Nancy, you have something?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, I was a theater critic for many years and still active in covering theater. And there's a great appetite, particularly for, youth drama or youth musicals. And a lot of them, they would love to grab onto something that was original, but also associated with somebody of such a great reputation. There's such a following. I think you might have some real gold there. And it could not only be in professional children's theaters, but also schools are very hungry for this kind of material. Youth theater is actually very big.
well, thank you. I don't know. I'm just repeating words I've heard from book agents, but there are some things in the works now that may answer that need. I'm not free to say because I don't want to jinx anything. But through the years, we've had a lot of almost big things happen. Unfortunately, we were right on the cusp of having a movie, and the writer's strike hit. It was about 10 or 11 years ago, and there was no one to write the script at that point. But things like that keep happening, and I keep hoping, and I don't know. I keep getting offers from people who want to write scripts. As I said in my interview for the Eldridge Library, I got a script from a woman who had written about a whale from Disney for Disney Productions, and she sent it to show how good she was as a scriptwriter, and all I could think was the whale Jewish? I don't know.
No, it's
But,
the whale from Jonah. But those scripts you have in the attic, as a special collections librarian, the scripts in the attics get leaks, get moldy. Would you get them out of the attic, please? Even bring them down somewhere safe and well ventilated and dark.
Well, I can also tell you there's a picture book. Well, a book based on my mother's Hanukkah story was published recently.
Yes.
All the
For the Sidney Taylor Award.
And All the Kind Family passed over, yeah. And there's also a picture book coming out by Rich Michelson, who some of you may know.
Very well.
And it's called, what's it called? But anyway, it's coming out very soon. And he was waiting to get an illustrator for it. I think it's something about, yeah, something about, yeah, all the different Sidney Taylors. And the theme of the book for young children is you can be an actress, you can be an author, you can be a dancer, you can be anything you want to be. You can even be vice president or perhaps president. And that's coming out, I think, very shortly. So that's one good thing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Look forward to that.
Joe, to clarify, did you say All of a Kind Family Passover? Not Hanukkah? There's a second book?
There's a second book in the works, yes.
Whoa, that's
and Rich Michelson's book is called Sidney Taylor, One of a Kind. One of a Kind, the picture.
That's great news.
Yeah.
I
So
knew about
it
Rich's
keeps
book,
the-
but I didn't know about Emily and Paul. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Paul Zelensky did the illustrations that are absolutely lovely. So that's exciting. And I have a whole wall in my home in New Jersey of Sidney Taylor award-winning posters and all kinds of things. And that's fun because anybody who comes to visit me has to look at my wall. So.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Joe, because having been a part of the Sidney Taylor Book Award committee and then chairing it kind of changed my life so that now I pretty much eat and breathe and sleep Jewish children's literature, and I spend all of my time promoting Jewish children's books, and that began with being a part of this committee. And I think it's just so important, especially now. I see Susan saying, yes, she does. Yes, she knows that I do this like all day long. So I think it's really important right now to have strong Jewish representation, that kids can see themselves, Jewish kids can see themselves, and like we were saying, that non-Jewish kids can see us and see that we are normal, good people that they should be friendly to. And the award makes it so much more possible to spread that message. So thank you again for sponsoring this award. And I did have a question also. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, so I'm not sure how old you were when the books were published. And I wondered, if you were a child when they were published, did that have an effect, like, among your friends and schoolmates, that you had a famous author for a mother? So like, what was it like for you, whether you were a child or an adult, when the books were published? How did it affect you?
Well, let's see, they came out in the 50s. So I was born in 1935. So I was a teenager. But like typical teenagers, you're not really interested in the stuff like that. And I had no idea my mother was a famous author. I just knew that she was typing all the time. And my father would sit with her and try to edit some of her work because he was a very good editor, actually. And I about the cookbook too, I was just thinking, I'm really not that good a cook. I don't know if I could even make crepe-latch, but I could try. But if there aren't any more questions, I really want to say one last thing. I thank you all again for listening to me all this time and for helping keep my mother's legacy alive all this time. It's just something very special to me, and I'm happy to be able to be a part of it. So thank you again. I love you all, and lots of mazel.
Thank you so much, Joe. That you are a gift to us. Let me just say it that way. You are truly a gift to us, and it is our great honor to keep your mother's legacy alive. And as Heidi said, it's been a gift to the world because we're able to demonstrate through the books that win this award what the Jewish people are all about. And so it's because of you that we're able to do it. And we thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Kathy.
So I think Sean was gonna say some stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And Joe, I hope you'll stay with us for
I will.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Boyle, and I'm the president of the School, Synagogue, Centers, and Public Libraries Division of AJL. And thank you for everyone coming today. And it's great to see so many people sharing in this amazing experience. And then a special thank you to Joe for sharing with us those amazing memories of your mother and the lasting impact she had. Also, thank you for continuing to be part of the process as AJL continues to honor the legacy she started by your mother and her amazing works. To the AJL Sidney Taylor Book Award Committee itself, thank you for all that you have done to select another great group of books. You are the latest links of the chain started back in 1968 and expanded throughout the years to the impressive program that we have now. It is no longer just selecting a single winner like it was in 1968. This year you read and evaluated almost 200 books to award winners in 3 categories, but then also selected honor books as well as notable books for each category. You're not just honoring and continuing the legacy of Sidney Taylor, but you're setting the standards for quality Jewish children's literature by stating that these books represents all the standards that we believe make up a book representing a high quality Jewish experience. For your fellow SSCPL members who do not have the budget or time to look at almost 200 books a year, we greatly appreciate the dedication you put into helping us select the best of each year's offerings. And maybe even more important than what a great benefit you provide to AJL and its members is that you are empowering a non-Jewish public librarian in the most remote and tiny rural library wanting to expand their Jewish literature collection can, with full confidence, know that they are purchasing a book that will authentically portray the Jewish experience and that also be interesting to both Jewish and non-Jewish readers. I want to recognize that this committee worked in the second full year of a global pandemic. They took the time to read and critically evaluate almost 200 books and come up with the outstanding 2020 winners. While most of us were satisfied with just surviving, let alone try to select the best of the best in Jewish children's books. I want to give special thanks to the outgoing members, Aviva, Toby, and Judy, for their several years of dedicated work and being the continuity that ensures the highest standards were being maintained. Thank you also for the members who will be continuing on, Martha, Taya, Kay, and Carla. You, along with the new members, come in are being entrusted to continuing to honor Sidney Taylor's legacy, and I hope you and the new members coming in are as inspired as I am from the memory shared with us today by Joe Taylor Marshall. I will now pass over to the chair of the committee, Martha Simpson.
Okay, just trying to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. I'm Martha Simpson, and I had the great honor of being the chair of the Sidney Taylor Book Award Committee this year. And again, thank you, Sean, for mentioning the members of the committee. Everybody was just outstanding, reading all these books and having some wonderful discussions about, the merits of all the different books. Obviously we get so many, it would be wonderful to recognize even more than what we did. But I think we did a really good job in coming out with an outstanding list of books. And I hope that most libraries, not just Jewish libraries, but, secular libraries, public libraries, school libraries, I hope a lot of them will decide that these books are worthy of joining their collections. And so for right now, I'm going to just read a list of the books that we recognize this year. But I also want to mention that if you go to the Sidney Taylor Book Award site on the Association of Jewish Libraries website, you will see that there is the chronological list of all the books that have been recognized as winning books and honor books and notable books throughout the years, from the present time all the way down to 1968 when they started. And you can read all the annotations there. I have been working in between my time doing everything else. I've been working on putting those into an Excel sheet, which Shirley, who's the webmaster at AJL, is making into a database that will be searchable. So you will be able to search, for example, authors. You can put in an author's name or an illustrator's name or a translator's name and see what other books they have that have been recognized by the Sidney Taylor Book Award Committee. And so hopefully, my goal is to try and get that done by AJL annual. And so it will be an easier way for people to research the Sidney Taylor Book Award books. And as I'm going through them, I think I'm up to 1994 right now, starting backwards. It's amazing the depth of books that have been recognized. And, I'm making mental lists of books that I have to go back and look up and read, because there have been so many wonderful books recognized over the years. Okay, so for this year, the Sidney Taylor Book Awards, the 2022 award winners, the gold medalist in the picture book category, The Passover Guest by Susan Kussel, illustrated by Sean Rubin and published by Neil Porter Books. In the middle grade category, we had How to Find What You're Not Looking For by Vera Hiranandani, published by Kokila. For the young adult category, it's The City Beautiful by Aidan Polydoros. And then we had 8 silver medalists, honor books. And for picture books, the honors are Dear Mr. Dickens by Nancy Chernin, illustrated by Bethany Stancliffe and published by Albert Whitman. The Christmas Gift by Jeff Gottesfeld, illustrated by Michelle Laurentia Agatha, published by Creston Books. And Nikki and Vera, A Quiet Hero of the Holocaust and the Children He Rescued, written and illustrated by Peter Cease, published by Norton Young Readers. For middle grade, the honor books are Linked by Gordon Corman, published by Scholastic. The Genius Under the Table, Growing Up Behind the Iron Curtain, written and illustrated by Eugene Yelchin and published by Candlewick. And for the young adult books, the honors are Whistle, A New Gotham City Hero by E. Lockhart, illustrated by Manuel Pertano, published by DC Comics. The Summer of Lost Letters by Hannah Reynolds, published by Razorbill. And The Last Words We Said by Leah Shire, published by Simon & Schuster Books. And then we had 10 notable books. So the notable picture books are A Queen to the Rescue, a story of Henrietta Zold, founder of Hadassah, by Nancy Chernin, illustrated by Evgenia Nyberg and published by Creston Books. The People's Painter, How Ben Shahn Fought for Social Justice with Art, by Cynthia Levinson and illustrated by Evan Turk, published by Abrams Books. And Red and Green and Blue and White by Lee Wind, illustrated by Paulo Zelansky and published by Levine Carito. So for the notable books in middle grade category, we had The Magical Imperfect by Chris Barron, published by Fywell and Friends, and Sorry If You're Lost by Eugene Levy, published by Orca Books, and Benny Feldman's All-Star Klezmer Band by Allison and Wayne Marks, published by Green Bean Books. The notable young adult books are The Light of Days, The Untold Story of Women Resistance Fighters in Hitler's Ghettos, Young Readers Edition by Judy Battalion, published by Harper. Why We Fly by Kimberly Jones and Gilly Siegel, published by Sourcebooks Fire and imprint of Sourcebooks. And The Seventh Handmaiden by Judith Kransky, published by Green Bean Books. And Boy from Buchenwald by Robbie Weissman and Susan McClelland, published by Bloomsbury. And I do want to mention the Body of Work winner, because we had the honor of being able to decide who the Body of Work winner would be for this year. And the award goes to Jane Yolen, who everybody knows has written masses of books, over 400 already that were published. And she has written several books that were Sidney Taylor Honors, Sidney Taylor Notables, and then of course The Devil's Arithmetic won both the Sidney Taylor Book Award in 1988 and the National Jewish Book Award. So we were very excited to be able to give her that award honor as well.
I just want to make sure we don't forget to mention the blog tour that's coming up.
Absolutely.
So February 7th to 11th, as we have been doing for many years, we're going to have a blog tour where the gold and silver medalists are going to be interviewed by a variety of bloggers, and the interviews will appear in many places across the internet. So it's a great way to get new readers, not just our usual audience, but other people who read these various blogs to pay attention to our book awards. So keep an eye at jewishlibraries.org. The schedule will be posted soon.
I also want to remind everyone that we did have a manuscript award winner
Yes.
this year, and I'm gonna go to the site where it'll tell me what that was.
Oh, I have it here if you want me to say it.
I've got it. It's Noah White's For Echo of Light, a middle grade novel that focuses on a Latina girl adopted by a Jewish family. And I want to also say that The Seventh Handmaiden, which I believe is a notable book, am I correct?
Yes.
Notable book, was a Sidney Taylor Manuscript Award winner a couple of years ago. So
Actually, when I was the chair.
yes.
So I remember it. I was very, very happy to see it show up.
Yeah, it's wonderful to
Yes.
see the books we choose as manuscript winners get published. It's great.
Mhm.
So thank you, Martha, for sharing the list with all of us. It is a truly remarkable list. And thank you to all of the authors and of all these books who have joined us this morning. It's wonderful to see you. I'm going to apologize in advance if I mispronounced your names in any way. I did my best on Monday. So I think now we're just schmoozing. Is that right, Jackie?
Yes, we invite everyone. We're going to unpin and unspotlight and everything and just hang out and be together because we like each other. And we have all been inspired by these books. So
I just want to add one thing, which is not directly related, but in many ways it is. We just saw the most incredible production from Palm Beach Drama Works called The People Downstairs. It's by a play by Michael McKeever, who starred in it. And it basically tells the story of the people who hid the Anne Frank family upstairs. You never see the family. It's the story of the rescuers. And it is amazing. So if you get a chance to see it, it's called The People Downstairs. I was so moved. And I just was floored. The whole production was marvelous. So try to see it if you can.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to mention the Sidney Taylor Schmooze, which this is our second year of doing a mock award blog and joining so many other well-known awards that have mock award blogs. So that's been a really fun project, and it's been great to get reviews out all year long of Jewish books, the ones that potentially could win, the ones that maybe wouldn't win, but we wouldn't know that without evaluating them and looking at them. And even books that don't necessarily qualify for the award may be good choices for Jewish libraries and for other libraries. So it's really exciting to now have a vehicle to get that information out there to the public year round. So I hope that everybody has been reading the Sidney Taylor Schmooze. We've got a wonderful group of like about 30, maybe almost 40 volunteers who review for us, and we're so grateful to them.
Yes, and I want to thank you for the Sidney Taylor Schmooze too, because I found it very interesting to read a lot of the books. And again, you know, we couldn't give an award to every single book that we read, but having the recognition, even in the mock awards, is important because it does get the word out for some other books that, you know, maybe didn't make our list, but they're absolutely worthy of being read and being purchased in libraries and in homes. Thank you.
Well, while we're on the call, I just want to acknowledge we happen to have the three people behind the schmooze with us, which is Heidi, me, and Hava Pinchuk, who is joining us from Israel. And this was a vision we all had a long time ago to do something similar to Calling Caldecott and heavy metal. And it's just been amazing that we've been able to put it together. But really, I want to thank everybody on this call who has reviewed for us. It's really terrific, and that you've helped, all three of us are former Sidney Taylor chairs, and we took this love of the committee and we wanted to keep it forward and to keep doing something for Sidney Taylor and for Jewish children's books. And so it's been really great to see this come together, and I'm glad that it was helpful to the committee too. That was a nice side effect. So. And Heidi, we're featuring the blog tour actually on the Schmooze, aren't we?
Yes, we will. We will certainly make sure that people who read the Schmooze find out about the blog tour. We'll put it everywhere that we possibly can.
Everywhere.
I'm just wondering if anybody knows more about Rich Michelson's book. Is it coming out? I haven't heard about it coming out anytime soon. Do we know what year it's expected or anything?
We have that, Joanne, on our deal memo, I think somewhere on our spreadsheet, but I think all one needs to do is ask Rich and he will be delighted to tell you all about it. He's been talking about it for a while. Joanne, did you find it already?
She's looking it up.
She'll find it, but Rich is full of information about it, but he's been talking about it for a while.
Okay. Yeah. And then we heard that there's going to be an All of a Kind family Passover, which is extremely exciting. I thought the Hanukkah one was like miraculous in how it felt so much like part of the original series. I was actually like going back and looking through the books. I'm like, did I miss this incident? I forget reading this, but it seems so familiar. It just felt so much like a part of the
just
original.
In the talking stage at this point, but the thought was maybe if there's enough interest to have one about each of the holidays based on the All of Kind family stories. So that's where that's at.
There's absolutely plenty of interest. So if they ask you, tell them we said so. We all are desperate for that.
And Rebecca and I were talking that we could see, All of a Kind family Shavuot, All of a Kind family, Tu B'Shvat. We'll see them all. Hava, it looked like you pulled up something saying that Rich's book is Astra House 2024. So it's something to look forward to. Oh, and Joanne, you don't see it on the spreadsheet. He had a bunch of books coming out, and he also had a really exciting one on Louis Brandeis. That was very pleased.
I
so
see one
that
about
one was on the spreadsheet and the other one wasn't. We can ask.
That's the one I'm seeing. The first Jewish justice of the Supreme Court. That's the only deal I see on here.
As someone who went to Brandeis, I'm really excited about that book.
Yeah, we have a Brandeis Institute here at AJU, wherever here is, anyway.
But we can ask Rich. He'll tell us whatever we want to know.
Well, Joe, you must be so proud to see this gargantuan list of Jewish books that all became possible because of your mother's writing and your generosity. I mean, I'm just astounded by the sheer. I'm an academic librarian. I don't get to see all these children's books. So,
well, you should come to my house and see how they're overflowing the bookshelves. I have every award winner, all in my library. And that's fine. I wouldn't mind moving out as long as I can fill the whole house with Sidney Taylor books.
This is the quietest schmooze I think I've ever heard.
Oh, well, let me say something. And you're going to hear me say this again in Philadelphia if the conference is in Philadelphia, or you'll hear me say it online. But since Joe is here, I want to say it now.
Don't even say if.
When in Philadelphia, you'll hear me say it again next summer in Philadelphia. You'll hear me say it.
In June.
But Joe, I do want to say this to you. As you may know, I was the chair of the Sidney Taylor Committee. I was on the committee for many years, and I'm a very active member of AJL. I've been on the board, and to receive this award that I have given out is really something extraordinary, means so much to me that there really aren't words for it. And I am grateful to you. I know exactly how much you have contributed over the years. We have talked many times. I've gotten to call you and tell you to turn on your television to watch the awards. And with the first year that they were on the ALA, we've had many conversations, and this was really quite an emotional moment for me, and really extra special. And so, and I'm going to cry. And it wasn't just another award. This award meant something else to me. So I want to thank you for everything you have done for this award, to keep it going. And I will cherish it forever. So thank you.
Don't cry, Susan. I love what you said. Thank you so much. And I just have to tell you one anecdote. One of the meetings where you had to wear, pins identifying you, and this woman comes over to me. Oh, you're Sidney Taylor's daughter. She gets down on her knees and kisses my hand. I was absolutely blown away. But that gesture was so meaningful. It was just incredible. I was sorry my mother's hand wasn't there to get the kiss.
Well, what's funny, I'll tell you, is that I'm a synagogue librarian, and I have many, many, many people come and check out All of a Kind Family out of my library, and tell me how much they love it. And I say, well, I've met Sidney Taylor's daughter. And they go, what? Oh my gosh. And I said, actually, many times. And they said, what? And so that's been really, really special. And I look very cool to my patron. So thank you.
And is it okay if I take in a moment to be totally self-serving? As a winner of the Notable Award for my Sorry for Your Loss, this is, I don't think I get a chance to speak about it down the road, but I just wanted to take 1 second to say that this book was inspired by my dad. Now I'm going to cry. My dad, who manages a funeral home, and this book is set in a funeral home, and inspired by him and the important work that he does. And this honor is for him. And my 81-year-old dad is so proud and so excited. And I'm just so, so honored to be able to share this honor with him and the important work he does. So thank you to the committee and to Joe for sponsoring, and everybody who has supported me and this book. So before I start really bawling, I'm going to stop, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want people to be crying or bawling or whatever, and all this wonderful emotions. And we thank everyone for being here, especially Joe, for taking the time to be with us for this past hour. But we run over because our cup runneth over. And see you next week at the blog, at the schmooze, at all of our other online events. And have a beautiful and safe rest of your week. See you in Philly. Yes, Sylvie. Yes, all of you, Philly.
Next summer in Philly.
That's right.
This summer in Philly.
This summer.
This summer in
This
Philly.
summer in Philly.
This summer in Philly. Well, that's not how the phrase goes.
Doesn't matter.
That's a different phrase. Thank you for coming, everybody. This was a
Thank you for
wonderful
all
event.
being
Move
here.
around the country safely.
Yes.
Remarkable morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. This was a wonderful idea.
Okay.
Really good.
All right. And thank you all.
Nancy, are you raising your hand?
Oh, I was waving goodbye, but I was actually, if we had had time, I was just going to say that one of the things that was so moving about Joe talking about her relationship with her mother was that Dear Mr. Dickens very much had its origin. It's a mother-daughter story, because this will all come out in the blog tour too, but it's because my mother always had an issue with me reading Dickens. And when I discovered that there was this woman who had written to Dickens, a Jewish woman who had written to him and changed his heart, and I could show her that Dickens' heart had changed. He was not the same person who had created Fagin. It was so healing. I mean, when I brought this book to my mother, we were both crying. And I don't know, just the thing you were talking about with what it meant. Sometimes when a book comes out of that love that a mother and daughter have for each other, and there's a distance and you want to bring your relationship together. I don't know, it just made me think of that and why it was so personal to me. And I could feel how personal All the Kind Family was to you, Joe, because your mother had written it for you. I kind of wrote this from my mother. So thank you.
That's lovely.
And thank you to the committee for all your work. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Nancy, and Mazel Tov on all the different awards you're getting for your books.
Oh, no,
And
no.
people will see this, it's still recording, so all this will still go into the online version of this when, or the permanent version of this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I'm very grateful. Honors for both of my books. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, now I'm gonna
Stop the
stop.
recording?
Yeah.